Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our live webinar. We are here with Russell from Milestone Systems and Kyle from MOBOTIX. Today's topic, we're talking about industrial scrapyards and how they're about to get a heck of a lot smarter. So very interested in talking about this. I want to do quick introductions. My name is Benjamin Preston. I am the marketing manager for MOBOTIX. And with us, we have Kyle Thornley. He's one of our business BDMs based out of, you might have to remind me, East Coast.
Yes. So currently in New Jersey, and I cover New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Yeah, Kyle's really awesome. If you want to reach out to Kyle, we will put his LinkedIn information on this as well. And also we have Russell from Milestone Systems. Russell, how are you?
I'm doing good.
So what is Russell? I know that Kyle works with you, but for people who aren't familiar with you, what do you do at Milestone?
So I'm a channel business manager in charge of the territory for upstate New York, New Jersey, basically everything but New York City for me. So I handle all the business throughout the channel for that area, from end users to distribution to integrators.
Awesome. So yeah, Russell, thank you for joining us. Kyle, obviously, thank you for being here as well. We're going to drop, Russell, we'll put your LinkedIn information, or we'll put an email that people can get in contact with you too. Yeah, so again, the topic is industrial scrapyards. That's what we're talking about. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out to the us-sales@mobotics.com, or we'll have more information on mobotics.com. We'll link in the comments below. If you have any questions as this webinar is going, please leave them in the comment section below. We will answer them via chat, and we'll message you back. So without further ado, let's jump into scrapyards. So this is not an area that I'm super familiar with. So let's start with very, very high level. What are the biggest pain points that scrapyards? Russell, I know you had some really cool there was compliance stuff, there was cost saving. Like, walk me through, what is the high level solution that a lot of scrapyards are looking to invest in, or why they're looking for these kind of solutions?
Sure. So a lot of scrapyards are looking at a couple of different buckets to both ensure production of the systems that they have currently over there, like for instance, you're a scrapper, to also preventing shrinkage through, for instance, like copper theft.
Okay. Yeah, and copper theft, and from what I know, is a really big commodity that's like kind of a pretty common thing. And Kyle, in your experience, this is something that, like, theft prevention, access control, perimeter monitoring is stuff that we do all day, every day. And I'm sure in your region, it's huge.
Yeah, no, it is a big piece of what we do. At MOBOTIX, there's a lot of technology that can kind of, I don't want to say drown out, but take precedence over for some of the more security focused pieces of our puzzle. And but yeah, line crossing, just perimeter detection in general. We could do that with thermal or standard optical, but it is one of our strong suits, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm really interested personally. So we talked a little bit about we'll dive into this more too, but cost savings. We talked about access control, perimeter monitoring just briefly. But I'm super interested in this EPA compliance kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Russell, are you able to kind of give us more information on first of all, what is the compliance, and then how does this solution, or how does the Milestone MOBOTIX solution help with that?
Sure. So this is also going into the keeping up and making sure the production continues throughout the days. One of the things that the EPA does, or the state, is regulate, for instance, the number of, or the amount of volatile organic chemicals that is released from the scrappers. So they have both an hourly and also a yearly threshold that can be released. The EPA can sometimes even come on site, do a couple of monitorings with the sniffers, and shut you down. And so what we're doing is we're actually connecting IoT devices into the security system, going beyond just cameras, beyond just security, including the AI analytics, connecting them to video feeds to verify that the averages, the thresholds are not being gone over, being able to prove to the regulators that you can actually keep production open, that you're not having to shut down and not losing money. They're able to keep making money.
And so the thing that's interesting to me, and I think this was a conversation we had previously, was you mentioned that with the regulations specifically, in the event that a scrapyard isn't compliant, they get shut down. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
not like, oh, this is, you have it 30, you have a day to figure it out. It's like they get shut down.
Yeah, you're cut right off, and you have to fix it before you can come back on. And before you come back on, they have to verify that you fixed it.
Which is okay. So that to me is super fascinating. I also want to jump into, you talked about the IoT stuff. So obviously we have like the video analytics. We have a lot of AI stuff that can kind of track that. But then I know, Kyle, you probably are going to be a good person to ask for this, because I'm just wondering. So we have a lot of IoT solutions, but this I feel like has to be a very targeted solution in terms of like camera placement, what cameras we use, different things like that. I mean, do you have ideas for what we've done with scrapyards in the past, or what we've worked with clients in that regard?
Absolutely. And one of the things that really plays in here is our modularity. So across our 7 series, it's going to be the same sensors, the same, and that's thermal or optical. So we have a few different camera options ranging from the S74 to the M73. Even some of the other ones that are indoor outdoor, the Q71, for instance. But all of these cameras mixed in with the analytics that can run directly on the edge, stored to the edge as well. Those are going to be tailor-made solutions, essentially, that fit the needs of the customers. And again, you can have the same camera footprint throughout the scrapyard or the premises, and some of them can be thermal, some of them can be optical. And then with our thermal overlay, you can actually have both running on the same camera, and actually have thermal and optical in the same viewpoint.
And so, Ben, this is like a great scenario for those MOBOTIX cameras, like how Kyle said, the modularity of being able to take the specific AI modules and load them on the edge of the camera. It's very important because you don't need to have, for instance, another server running all that. The camera is doing it. And the second thing is, now you can tailor-made where that camera's placement was, that camera's supposed to be covering. When Kyle was talking about copper theft with the intrusion detection, a lot of these scrapyards are surrounded by barbed wire, but I can only go on so far as long as they drape something right over their barbed wire and climb right over, or they start going into the fence and cutting right through. So this is where you can use that line crossing, that intrusion detection, video based, to detect when somebody's coming in and get a alert right then and there before they're even able to go and grab the copper. You know what's happening.
Correct.
Which is super cool. And that's something that obviously Milestone Systems, you guys have that ability to do those alerts and stuff. So what does that look like from let's say I'm a scrapyard and I see that this stuff is happening, what is kind of the options for people if I wanted to receive an alert or things like that?
Sure. So notifications can actually be sent right to your phone with a push video on it too as well. So that way, when you click on a notification, it goes right over to that MOBOTIX camera, and you can see the event as it's occurring and go to that live video. From then, you can actually verify that this isn't an event. I have somebody who I do not recognize. You got the crystal clear quality of the MOBOTIX cameras giving you a very nice high density pixel count. So you can verify that this isn't my employee that's cutting through my fence. I can now immediately call law enforcement local to that area.
And one thing
go ahead, Kyle.
Sorry, one thing to add there, again, with the modularity of our devices, they also are two-way SIP protocol. So you can program the camera to do any number of things when an event-based, situation happens. So if you do get that alert, you can then have the camera automatically run through any number of kind of if this then that, pre-recorded messages, sirens. You can actually talk directly into that and say, if you don't leave at within the next 5 seconds, whatever it is, we are calling the cops. And if that person is still detected, any number of seconds or minutes, 10 seconds later, then it can actually go through kind of a second protocol, which can actually be, reaching out and contacting local, police.
And Ben, Kyle brings up a great point with that audio capability, being able to talk through your phone, through your computer to that camera. You use something called a talk down procedure. You verify a certain piece of article. Hey, you person in the red shirt. They immediately grabs the person's attention that, yes, I have somebody live looking at me right now. And that's usually a deterrence to actually scare away that individual for follow-up with law enforcement afterwards. so that way they're not ingressing to your facility any further than they just have. But what you also find is that a lot of these times scrapyards are having nightly occurrences, especially when copper pricing is high. And it's usually by the same individuals. So now you have a talk down procedure to that individual. Well, now you just scared off that person. He's not going to be coming back.
Which is super awesome. And I want to jump into, because I think one of the things that I'm always fascinated with just technology in general, but specifically the stuff that we're talking about here, is if a scrapyard had, let's say, an individual, like one security guard, their vision or line of sight is where I'm looking at this moment, and that's all that I can see. And I know for people watching this webinar are probably thinking the same thing, like, well, yeah, why wouldn't you get a camera to have that solution? But I know, and one of the things that I think personally is really cool with MOBOTIX cameras is just like the AI, kind of the apps and the things that are included in that. And I think we talked briefly about them, but Kyle, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the common kind of apps that we would see with something like scrapyards and things like that to kind of include that technology component?
Sure. I mean, that's a loaded question. There's a lot to talk about there. So try and keep it to a minimum. But I mean, yeah, any number of apps. One of the big ones for prevention of fire and even moving into the thermal with the a lot of these scrapyards have heavy machinery. To Russell's point earlier, uptime is key here. So if the machinery is overheating or not working properly, not only could you lose money from downtime, but you're also putting your employees at risk. Even AI Spill is another app that comes to mind here, where it can actually kind of monitor people's activity, and if they do fall, then again that's another alert. So if you do have someone who's injured, anywhere on your site, it doesn't, you're not going to find out, because that person either regains consciousness and then makes a phone call, or has the security guard doing their laps. You have eyes on those people 24/7. So the minute that something happens, the second something happens, you can then act. Again, from a business continuity perspective, but also from a safety perspective.
Which I think, is super, super cool. So I want to drop this in just one more time in case people are interested, and they're like, oh, I have an idea, or I want to apply a Milestone MOBOTIX solution to a scrapyard. I know we do, waste management, manufacturing, like this kind of is a very niche topic for a very broad spectrum of things that we do. But I just want to drop this down here. So if you're interested, you want to learn more, us-sales@mobotics.com. We have mobotics.com, or we'll have the speaker LinkedIn profiles below. And we have actually one other thing that I want to pull up that was actually a brainchild of the two gentlemen on this call, which I think is awesome. So we have this downloadable. I will link to it in the chat as this is going. Russ or Kyle, do either of you want to jump in and talk through? You don't have to go line by line, but just kind of talk broadly about what this is. Oh, so Kyle, you're muted.
Kyle, if you want, can you also talk about the fire detection?
Sure. So, and again, it kind of goes in with the emissions, the reducing risk and fire detection with our thermal technology. I touched on it earlier, but from a business continuity, anything from brakes overheating to not properly lubricated machinery, all of those things can cause hot spots. And when things get too hot, sometimes they can explode. But one of the things that we are seeing, unfortunately, at an increasing level, is fires. They can seems like they spontaneously combust sometimes, but it could be any number of hazardous chemicals, even something as simple as a household battery. So with our technology, the fire and the smoke detection analytics, you will have basically up to the second recording and monitoring of all of your trash piles. So again, that goes into theft as well. But from a fire prevention standpoint, you will have notification sent to your phone or any of the devices that you wanted the minute the camera either detects a spike in temperature, because again, that's another benefit with our thermal radiometric cameras. You set a threshold within a certain field of view within the overall field of view, and if you go below that temperature threshold, that'll be a notification. If you go above, that'll be a notification. But if it senses a spike in temperature, or even some sort of smoke, starting to rise from a certain section of the pile, again, that's something that you'll be notified and you can act on immediately.
Which is super awesome. Yeah, and we have on here, so this one page basically covers everything that we talked about, the EPA compliance standards. We have all of these other risk and theft. We have the fire monitoring. We have the system health monitoring, continuous live stream 24/7. So yeah, that's a really cool resource. So I'll link to that below. And I think in terms of scrap yards, I think those are all the questions that I had, Russell and Kyle. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add in for people that are watching.
Sure. So one of the areas is that this type of solution coming together with the integrations of the AI analytics put onto the box cameras and the milestone software running everything gives not only notifications of events that's occurring, it increases their uptime. It ensures their production. It increases worker safety. It reduces shrinkage, reduces their operational costs in various levels. But this is also a very easy to use system. So that way, when those incidents do inevitably occur, and they unfortunately occur, they're able to easily export out that video and hand it over to law enforcement to hand it over to their insurance and to the warriors. That's also a big thing from an operational standpoint, is remaining easy to use while combining all of this into a single coherent system.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add is in industry waste management scrapyards, they typically in the past have been looked at through a certain lens, if you will. And with the increase in technology from both Milestone and MOBOTIX, that no longer has to be the case. We can enable these industries to move into the future and compete with other industries, because it's not just about the immediate results. A lot of what we see in some of our deployments is the metadata, and that's usually second, third phase benefit. But again, the data about how your employees are working, even from a license plate recognition perspective, you can make sure that every car that's not only in your lot but is driving on and off of the actual scrapyard itself. So again, there's a lot of data that can come out of these projects that enable these again stereotypical kind of older, more rough industries into the future. We're really enabling these industries to future-proof themselves, and again, just compete with any number of other industries moving forward.
And Ben, it's more than just a camera nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being able to choose more than just a video feed. It's about those AI analytics. And with that modularity that we were talking about before, that doesn't mean that you need to get everything up front. Mm-hmm. That means that down the line, I am having fire risk issues. Now you have a platform that you can easily add that in.
Yeah. And speaking of that, with the mean time before failure of over 8 years, chances are this system, with Milestone and MOBOTIX, it'll grow with you. And it's not a refresh every 2 years. These cameras are built to last. They're built to endure in the harshest environments. We've proven that time and time again. So again, it's about deploying something that's smart, but can also withstand, the daily environments, the rough environments that you can kind of expect in these industries. Yeah,
and I just want to say it's a good thing that you guys are in business development, because that was I'm sold. I'm good.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I also, Kyle, you alluded to durability, and I just wanted to plug an upcoming webinar that we have. So there's like this MOBOTIX anecdote about a camera that was in a manufacturing facility that got melted and it was still operational. So we're having a webinar upcoming talking about that in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. But it just was funny. I was like, oh wait, we have something actually where it'll be coming up and we'll be talking about that. So
yep, that's something we could talk about all day because our cameras, we don't even really need to say it. We can just, point to certain projects and the technology will speak for itself.
Yep. Oh man. Okay. Well, this is a great conversation. I'm going to throw this up one more time. If anybody is interested, if you have comments, please drop them below. Otherwise, the US-sales at MOBOTIX, MOBOTIX.com. And then Russell, I'm so sorry. I forgot to add in the milestone email. I don't know if you want to plug that in. We can drop it in the chat too, but if you want to give that out.
Sure. You could just email me at rjb@milestone.us.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I apologize. I didn't have that up sooner. I just thought about that. I was like, oh, we didn't have that. Cool. Well, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Russell and Kyle, for joining. I really enjoyed talking about this topic with you guys.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Cool. All right. Chat with you guys later.